let's move on over to Kentucky, who it doesn't get talked about a lot in the offseason, to be honest. And I mean, they brought in some transfers, especially at that quarterback position. They brought in three of them. They brought in three of them. Um, I think they got some good names in there. Brock Vandegrift at
Yeah.
quarterback. He's a good football player. He's talented. Now we haven't seen a lot of him, right? But he's a good, talented football player. And then Gavin Wimsatt is really good. Just kidding. He's not at all. He's pretty terrible. He transferred out of there because Ethan Kaliakmanis was going to take his job. Uh, I guess it's a good quarterback two option, a guy that has P5 experience, but holy cow, just Gavin Wimsatt, not good at quarterback.
You got Bo Allen from Tarleton State. Isn't that
Sure.
crazy that Ethan Kaliakmanis just took a stray in a Kentucky video? I mean, that kind of sucks for him. But regardless, so
Unbelievable.
speaking of, well, let's talk about who's actually going to play week one, especially, right? Brock Vandegrift. He's a guy, not a ton experience. Yes, he is going to year four, right? But, or maybe it could even be year five. I think it's year four. Yeah, it's year four because he's yearing on Carson Beck. Yeah. So he sat behind Stetson Bennett and Carson Beck. He was a highly talented recruit. The talent's obviously there, right? And that passing attack, Devin Leary, it did not work last year. I do think there's reason for optimism that your receivers get better, but Vandegrift also, I think, can really exploit that. I don't think it's crazy to say that like Georgia kept him for a reason, right? Like, he could have gone, he had options last year. Yeah, he wanted to compete for the job, but I think there was a legit competition with him and Carson Beck, but also I think Georgia knows how good he was and needed him just in case Beck got hurt, right? Until a guy like Stockton, is ready, or if they could fill that hole with, it was probably going to be Dylan Raiola until he went to Nebraska, whatnot. But regardless, though, it, I think I read into Georgia didn't want to lose him last year, and to me that tells me that he's pretty darn good.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think Brock Vandegrift is good. I also think that they upgraded in the wide receiver room.
Yeah,
I think Jabari Macklin is a fantastic football player coming over there from North Texas, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, second team All American, or sorry, not All American, all all conference in the
all
American Conference,
AAC. Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
AAC. That's the right way. That's the right way to put it. Barry Brown was very good last year, 500 yards, four touchdowns. It's not that, his production wasn't insane. It's that he is a game-breaking X factor type player with that kind of speed. It's a guy that I know you're extremely high on. Uh, I think people would be remiss if they didn't mention Barry Brown when talking about Kentucky's offense.
Yeah. Talking about like when I said that what wide receiver room is going to get elevated. You mentioned Macklin, but I do think the development of Barry Brown and Dane Key are crucial. Those are two
Correct.
guys that have played for a couple of years now. They've been, that the top of those receiving cores and not great passing offenses to that, but those are guys that have played a lot in college football now, going into I believe year three as true juniors. It's now or never, right? I guess it's not really now or never, but I think this is the year that they really take a step. You mentioned how high I was on Barron Brown. He's super explosive. Just get the ball in his hands and let him make his plays. Dane Key's a big dude, 6'3", right? He can win good down the football field. And that's where you can take advantage of, a guy with the arm talent of Brock Vandegrift. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good group. I think Macklin gives them a nice veteran piece to add to, the exciting, I guess not really young guys, but I guess younger in Dane Key and Barian Brown. Behind them, I'm not too sure. Anthony Brown
Correct.
Stevens, I kind of like, right? I like him. I think the staff likes him. I don't know how much you want to rely on him this year, right? I think another more year would be nice, but him and Hardly Gilmore, I don't I don't really see um I don't want them playing meaningful minutes, I guess snaps, I guess, in this Kentucky offense. Significant chunks of time.
Agreed. The running back room, you lose Ray Davis, and that is a big deal because Ray Davis was impactful as a runner, right? And there were breadcrumbs. Like if you followed the breadcrumbs at Vanderbilt, like he was productive at Vanderbilt. He was really good. If you followed the breadcrumbs and watched the film, you there was a chance that he was going to be amazing. Like there was. And I think for a lot of people it came out of nowhere, but I think the breadcrumbs actually made you like you really followed them. You're like, okay, this guy actually there's a reason that this guy popped off. I look at Chip Trainum, right? And I see a guy who is a hard runner. Okay. Um, he's pretty fast, very vertical with his run. I don't see him as the game breaking, game wrecking type running back that Ray Davis really was, that Ray Davis we saw against Florida. I just I think Chip Trainum is a good running back. I think he's a good running back.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, Ray Davis broke the game open. What scored the game when touchdown against Louisville? Like Chip Trayanum to me, I thought there was a significant difference when he was in the game versus a guy like Trayvon Henderson. Now, Trayvon Henderson is one of the best running backs in college football, but to me, I think Chip Trayanum is being a little bit overvalued in this offense here. And not that I don't like his value, I think he has nice value, but in terms of a guy that's getting, the bulk 50% of the carries, right, of your season, I don't know if I love that. Now, is it
But what does the
Sumo
depth look like?
Hunt?
Oh yeah, I don't
I-
think the rest of this room is all that great either. Now here's the thing: you don't need to have an amazing running back room to be a good offense, right? You
Yes.
don't. We've seen that. But Ray
Yeah,
Davis helped a lot last year. He helped a ton. It
he
really
did.
helps to have an effective running back.
He did. Now, the only thing that I do think that helps this room is you have a lot of experience on this offensive line. And I think this has been a position of intent, right? Of focus for these staffs the past couple years now at Kentucky. And I feel like you've kind of gotten to a spot where I kind of like this room. I mean, Marcus Cox has started 59 games. Burton started 25. Cox is 35. Mincy is 13. You've got some pieces that you kind of like at the depth position. Now, is it Georgia? Is it Alabama's interior guys? No, not at all. Is it LSU or Texas? No, but it's definitely somewhere in that middle of the pack, maybe the bottom of the middle of the pack of the SEC, which I think is totally livable if you're Kentucky.
Yeah. I think the only I I'll slightly disagree with you. I really only like the experience on this offensive line, which is valuable, right? Which is valuable. And we've seen teams that if you keep the core nucleus of these offensive lines together and you keep the coaching staff together, right, you can do something with an offensive line in an offseason. That's all it takes. It takes one offseason. So I would anticipate this offensive line improving, right? But to compete with some of these other teams on their schedule, I think it has to improve a ton. And I don't know if we're going to see that, right? So I'm a little bit less optimistic on the improvement of the offensive line than I think you are.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I just yeah. But I do think there are worse O lines in this SEC, and I don't think it's a bad thing.
Absolutely.
I think it's also a good thing if you are having these guys that are coming back, right, who have continuity together. I think 4 of the 5, right, return, and they can have spring together. They can have summer. They can have fall, and they can build a chemistry working in a new quarterback like Brock Vandagriff.
Absolutely. Let's ready to move over to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I mean, I'll just mention him right away. Deion Walker is one of the best players in college football.
Yeah.
Um, at that interior defensive line position, he is a game wrecker, a game stopper, a line of scrimmage mover. That dude is different. All right. He is very different. And I don't know if I've ever seen a better player at Kentucky ever.
I mean,
In
off
my
the top of my head,
since I've watched Kentucky football, I cannot think of a single better player than Deion Walker ever putting on a uniform at Kentucky.
Lynn Bowden. No, I'm just kidding. But no, Deion Walker, yeah, I'm with you here. He is one of the few people in college football that I feel good about penciling in as an All-American. Like this, I feel pretty good about, yeah, he's going to be an All-American this year, as long as he stays healthy, right? 6'6", 350. You cannot teach that, man. And the way he moves should not be of that size. 12 and
It's
a
not
half tackles for
legal. It
loss a year
shouldn't be
ago.
legal.
No. And he, dude, and the crazy part, the most impressive part, 728 snaps last year. Are
That
you
is
kidding me?
nuts.
Do you remember Jordan Davis, SEC fans, Kentucky fans? You know, Jordan Davis at Georgia struggled to play a lot of snaps for them. Now, they didn't need him to because they had crazy depth, but 720, I cannot stress the impressiveness of that. That is incredible. That speaks to his work ethic, that speaks to his determination, his conditioning, durability. Wow. And if he plays another 700 plus snaps for you this year, I think you have to feel pretty good about this defense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love Deion Walker. In terms of the rest of this defense, okay, so you also bring in transfer Jamon Dumas Johnson at linebacker, who we talked about earlier with Georgia. I mean, he played at Georgia. I mean, he was a second team AP All American at Georgia in 2022.
It,
This was a great transfer portal get for Kentucky. And I know we were
to me,
talking down on him a little bit because of the other linebackers in that room, but Jamon Dumas Johnson is going to be very good for Kentucky. Very, very, very good.
the returns are super solid early. To me, it looks like you look like a guy like Keon Sabb over at Michigan, right? That just really, really impressive player behind elite players. And he just transferred out to get more playing time. And that was Dumas Johnson, too. I think he helps as a leader. He helps as a work ethic, his experience, everything you want in your middle linebacker, he gives you. I want to go back to that, stay in the front seven, back to that D line. And how about Deion Walker's running mate, Keyshawn Silver? Okay, this is a guy who was a former five-star recruit, right? He's 6'4", 320 as well. Holy cow, is that a crazy intimate? Those two guys come off the bus. Well done, Mark Stoops, right? We do not see those type of guys at Kentucky. That's pretty impressive that they put together a roster on that D-line like that. I like him to take a step this year. I do. I've been waiting for it, waiting for it, waiting for it. Year two with Kentucky, I think he pops this year, and he benefits more than anybody, maybe in the country, playing next to a guy and learning from a guy like Deion Walker. Um, I mean, Silver himself played 300 snaps last year, which is crazy. Everyone else in that defensive interior line group, they played 300 snaps, and Walker was playing 728. Really, really impressive. And then sticking on the D line, I mean, what about the edge group, right? JJ Weaver,
Solid.
really, I think he's a really nice piece off the edge. Is he, you know, Dallas Turner, right? Is he some of these other guys you see, Michael Williams in the SEC? Not necessarily,
But
but
5 sacks in the SEC. I mean,
yeah, dude, and you don't have to be. You just have to be able to turn the corner and not let these quarterbacks escape the pocket when that interior line gets
yeah.
pushed back in the quarterback's lap.
Yeah. 29 pressures is pretty good. But the second most pressures on the team, right? He had 29. Just to go back to Deion Walker. Deion Walker had 51 pressures last year. That's so nuts. That's so nuts. And there's some really good quarterbacks in the SEC. I think it's one of the better kind of that the stars are aligning kind of in the SEC where a lot of really good quarterbacks are there. But like, man, if Deion Walker can get up there in the middle, I mean, it could be ugly. Derek Jackson also was I believe he was an all SEC defender. 89 tackles last year, led the team, 2 sacks, forced fumble, 2 interceptions. I mean, very good linebacker. I mean, this linebacker crew is good. Like, assuming that they stay healthy, right? And that defensive line is what it is. Like, that Kentucky front seven, dude, is the best that I've seen at Kentucky.
Yeah, no, I
Unless
don't think that's
Kentucky fans
crazy at
can
all.
can tell me anyway. Kentucky fans, can you point to another year where you liked the front seven better than we like it this year?
I mean, I think you've
That's
had
a
pieces, right? I mean, you
yeah.
Tevin Wallace last year, good player. You had I'm blanking on the guy, the first round linebacker to Washington a couple years ago as well, right? Those are obviously very, very good players. But in
David
terms of,
Jared Davis. Is that his name?
I'm gonna double check that. But in terms of like the actual depth and just holy,
You also
yeah,
lose
I love this team.
you lose Keaton Wade as well, who had 51 tackles, but I think you replaced Keaton Wade with who transferred. I believe he transferred to Colorado, and then you replace him with Jamon Dumas Johnson. And man, dude, man, I just I really like this defensive front. Now, the depth in linebacker, I think there's a big drop off between Derek Jackson and Javon Davis Johnson. Uh, but I don't know, man. I don't know. And then also too, we didn't even talk about Jared Smith on the D line. Did you talk about him?
Mm-mm.
I mean, you want to talk about locking down the borders. The number one recruit in the state of Kentucky is going to the University of Kentucky. 6'4", 245-pound edge coming out of Corbin High School there. We'll see if he gets into that rotation early on in his career. I would expect him to. I think he's that talented. I don't know what the coaching staff I'm not at their practices, so I have no idea it's going to look like with Jared Smith there. But I would have a feeling that he makes his way into the rotation
Javion
somehow.
Campbell.
Javion Campbell. Okay, that was okay. Okay. Who's Jared
Oh,
Davis?
I'm so sorry. I'm looking at 25. My apologies. You're right. Jared Smith. Wait, just
Jared
wait,
Davis.
Kentucky
Jared
fans.
Davis.
This time,
Jared
yeah,
Davis. Was it Jared Smith?
Gerard Smith from
Gerard
Corbin,
Smith.
Kentucky. Yeah. He's a top 100 player.
Jared.
I was looking at 25. My apologies, Kentucky fans. Come back next year, I promise. We'll talk about Javion Campbell, another top 100 player, edge group.
Oh, Gerard Davis
Kentucky.
went to Florida. Dang it. I should have known that. All right,
That's
whatever.
right.
That's right. Close enough. I was close. Yeah, Kentucky fans are gonna be mad about that. But hey, we're hyping y'all up, so stick with us here. All right, let's go move over to the secondary. Do we like the secondary? I think there's a lot of experience there. Some. I think you lose
I
Drew
do.
Phillips. I think that's a big deal. Yeah. But
was Maxwell Harrison? Was he better than Phillips? I don't know. I do think I'm not gonna hate on Phillips. He was a very good player for Kentucky, and you guys know that, Kentucky fans, right? But
and if you
Harrison,
listen to CDs, you talked up Drew Phillips specifically. I remember you like Drew Phillips a lot, so don't hate on CD.
I more so liked his transition to the NFL. Regardless, though, he was still really good at Kentucky for you. But Harrison, the drop off is going to be minimal, if any, there. And I like Dunn as well. Jansen Dunn. I like Waller coming over from Michigan. He's going to compete.
You know what they didn't do? I mean, they brought transfers, in a lot of specifically on the offensive side of the ball, but they did not bring in a lot of transfers on the defensive side of the ball, aside from Jamon Dumas Johnson and what's the name? Christian Story.
Yep.
So that makes me feel like they might feel. I don't think it's because they missed guys. I think it's because they feel good about this defense, which, in terms of your run defense last year, they only let up 114 rushing yards per game, which is top 20. They only let up 3.3 yards per game or per carry, which was top 15 in the country. And teams only ran the ball 49% of the time against them, which, if you didn't know, that's not a lot. It's not a lot. Teams are usually over that's I guess if you're looking at it, that's top 35 in the country. If you're looking at, not that you want teams to throw the ball or run the ball more, but like teams just knew that they couldn't run the ball a lot, right? On this defense. And I thought the secondary played okay last year. Just some things need to be tied up there on the back end, right? But just, I think it could maybe happen, dude. I think Kentucky has, dare I say it, a decent football team this year.
Listen, don't tell everybody else that, because Kentucky loves to be slept on.
They love that.
Freaking Mark Stoops loves to be slept on. And yeah, I like the secondary group, right? Childress, veteran guy. I think Bryant could be fun, right? In a little bit more extended role. Story's a guy that I've been high on since high school for Alabama. JQ Hardaway, another guy, we haven't talked about him. He's coming over from Cincinnati a year ago. He played a little bit, right? 300 plus snaps, and I kind of like what he did at times, and we'll see if he competes for that second cornerback role. He was really good as a freshman for Cincinnati. and he's transitioned to the SEC well. So we'll see. I mean, Stoops is a defensive guy. Him and Brad White, I trust those guys to get their act together defensively, and especially with the talent that's up front there and the experience you have at your linebacker core, you could get pretty creative with your secondary. And I'm kind of excited to see what they can do.
I agree. I agree 1000%. I think they struggled offensively last year, getting first downs, converting on that third down, that fourth down, and it killed them. It really killed them on the offensive side of the ball. And really slowly paced team, but I think that's going to benefit this defense, man. Look, they're over to win till 6.5. Let's look at their schedule. You get Southern Miss at home, South Carolina at home, Georgia at home, Ohio at home. So you start the year, 4 home games. One of those happens to be against Georgia. You could go 3-1 in that spot. Then you go to Ole Miss. Then you have a bye. Then you play Vanderbilt at home, and then Florida on the road, which is a tough game. Auburn at home, Tennessee on the road. You get a bye, Murray State at home, then Texas on the road, and then you get Louisville on the road. Is that on the road or is that
I
home?
think in Louisville's it's at home.
Okay,
They went into Louisville last year and
that's
they
right.
won.
So you get Louisville at home. So you're out of conference looking like Southern Miss, Ohio, Murray State, Louisville, right? You get Louisville every year. I think they'll beat Louisville, by the way. I think they'll beat Louisville. And I think they'll beat Southern Miss. I think they'll beat Ohio. I think they'll beat Vanderbilt. I think they'll beat Murray State. I think they'll beat Auburn at home. And man, just find me one more win. Give me the over 6.5 on this
Come
Kentucky
on.
team. Feed it to me. I mean, I'm talking about spoon. Don't just spoon feed this. Shovel this in my mouth. Give me
Pause.
over 6.5. Give me over
Pause.
six and a half.
We've been recording for about 3 hours now, and we are loving it. Give me as well. I will tell you. Let's go, Kentucky. Do not bet against Mark Stoops. That is one of the rules. That is the SEC. As soon as you bet against him, you will lose. Like you said, that is the path to 7+ wins. It is 4-0 out of conference. It is Vanderbilt. It is South Carolina and Auburn, both at home. Give me one or both of those, and then just steal one road game. Ole
It's
Miss,
one.
Florida, Tennessee, right? Those teams, they're going to be overlooking you, right? Florida, you've had your way with. Florida's going to be beat to hell. They could have a new head coach, although I don't think so. Tennessee's a new quarterback breaking them in. I mean, a lot can happen, and I think the depth is here on this team. I think the experience is here on this team.
That's the key word. The
Experience,
experience. I think experience more than depth.
experience. The depth is experienced.
But see, like here's the thing. Here's the thing. The key games to hit the over, right? That they likely are going to win are all for the month of November. So who cares about depth until you get to November? You know,
Well, I mean, you got to beat Murray State
Louisville.
and
Well,
Louisville.
you don't need.
Well,
You
and
don't
by the
need.
way, last year, Louisville, to me, I think Louisville takes a step back, and I think you get better, and you're playing at home, and you still beat them last year. Now,
Yes,
yeah,
feed me that.
holy
I love that. I love that. They went 3-5 in the SEC last year. Can we get that to 4 wins
Big Blue Nation,
or
you
or
are.
3 wins?
That's probably, yeah, just 3 wins will do it. You're a football school now. I'm sorry. That is, I don't make the rules. You're a football school. Embrace it. I like this team, and I think that slowly but surely, Kentucky's just going to keep climbing its way up the ranks of the SEC, and they're just going to be just annoying. Just really, really annoying. And that's a really high compliment I can give them.